I felt like I was failing constantly. If I wasn't yelling, it was like I couldn't get it right with her. And it really just deteriorated my mental health very, very quickly. So I found, especially the second time around, I went in with like way too high of expectations. And it really just caused me to feel like I was doing everything wrong.
Ever feel like you suck at this job? Motherhood, I mean. Have too much anxiety and not enough patience? Too much yelling, not enough play? There's no manual, no village, no guarantees. The stakes are high. We want so badly to get it right. But this is survival mode. We're just trying to make it to bedtime. So if you're full of mom guilt, your temper scares you, you feel like you're screwing everything up, and you're afraid to admit any of those things out loud, this podcast is for you. This is Failing Motherhood. I'm Danielle Bettman, and each week we'll chat with a mom ready to be real, sharing her insecurities, her fears, her failures, and her wins. We do not have it all figured out. That's not the goal. The goal is to remind you, you are the mom your kids need. They need what you have, you are good enough, and you're not alone. I hope you pop in earbuds, somehow sneak away, and get ready to hear some hope from the trenches. You belong here, friend. We're so glad you're here. Hey, it's Danielle. I am so excited for you to hear today's episode. It is with Amanda Gurman. She's a full-time working mom and host of the Honest as a Mother podcast from Ontario, Canada. She has 2 kids that are 3 and 5, and she's just here to talk about real life. It was so good. In this episode, we talk about all the things, but most of it is coming to terms with realistic expectations of what is possible and what kind of mom I am, and how am I the right mom for my family, and how do I figure that out? So she shares kind of some of that process of not being able to identify a label for the kind of mom that she is, and just running some experiments and figuring out what she needs to say no to, like breastfeeding, and what she can say yes to. More screen time. It's okay. We just really want to reinforce and drive home the fact that your mental health and well-being and happiness as a mom is the thing that your kids need from you most, and anything else is a bonus. So she shares her story of going from 1 to 2 kids and how much it really rocked her feeling, her false sense of confidence, and just being able to share that you're not alone if you're feeling heavy right now. And if you're struggling, that is what is the heart behind her podcast. And it's why she was such a good fit for this one. She shares some practical examples of what it looks like to advocate for her own needs now that her kids are a little bit older. And you definitely want to stick to the end to find that part of the conversation, because I think it will be a really practical takeaway for you of what will it look like to show my kids that I have needs as well, and advocate for those so that they don't become entitled. Nobody wants to raise entitled kids, but that means you have to find boundaries for yourself. And so we talk about that and we break that down. So many good takeaways. I can't wait for you to hear it. Hey, if you really, really, really feel like 2022 is the opportunity for you to stake a claim in making a commitment to better days as a mom, being a better role model, having more capacity and patience, and just knowing that you want more for your kids and your family, and now is the season to do that, reach out. Schedule a free call, your Sanity and Solutions call. It's just a little consultation, free, no obligation. And we can talk through what it would look like for your family to have some one-on-one sessions where you write a family business plan, you hash out your individualized plan to improving your kids' behavior, and you really take ownership over the things you can control so that you have more patience, you deactivate your triggers, and you figure out the mindsets and the positive discipline strategies that allow you to feel like you can handle whatever your kids throw your way. And if your partner is ready to come along on that journey with you, where they know they want to be a good dad, a good partner, a good spouse, and they are ready to have that conversation or at least be able to meet me and learn more, then schedule that call. I am here for it. And if it's not a good fit, I'll point you in the direction of a lot of other things that I recommend. But if you're at a place where things aren't sustainable the way they are and you feel like it's compromising your parent-child relationship in a way that is not going to lead to the parent-child relationship you want to have when they're teens and when they move out, then you need to take action now. And if that's on your heart, then let's just have that conversation that will give you the peace of mind of having a person and a plan. Your kids deserve really, really good parents that are equipped. And if you don't feel like you're equipped, you just need more tools. That's why I'm here. It's possible. And when you're ready for it, you can't not make changes. You can't not succeed and find solutions. So don't hesitate. Reach out. Cannot wait to meet you, to hear more about your family, and to have the opportunity to cheer you on. So here's my conversation with Amanda. Welcome to Failing Motherhood. My name is Danielle Bettman, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Amanda Gurman. Hey, Amanda.
Hey, Danielle. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm good.
We are both surviving the pre-Christmas mania.
Mania. Honestly, I was out this morning and I don't know if it's just the pandemic and I'm not used to being around this many people still, or, maybe last year hustle and bustle wasn't as crazy because we're still in the pandemic, don't get me wrong, but we were in the thick of it last year still. I don't know.
Pre-vaccination at least, yes.
Pre-vaccination, yes. So maybe people are feeling a little bit more invincible this year. But it's wow, where did all these people come from? Even just to get to Tim Hortons this morning to get a coffee, it was oh my God, everybody is everywhere. Mania is the perfect word.
Yes, surviving. Oh my gosh. And you just got over about a family sickness, so that's fun.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I still have to be out and about. You do the whole I have a runny nose or a cough or something, and now it's now I can't leave. I have to get a test. Do I run around to all the stores? I probably shouldn't, so I'm not going to, but Christmas is in 3 days. But
no big deal. Minor details.
Right. Don't worry, I didn't have anywhere to go. Thanks, public school board, where I'm sure it came from.
Oh.
But that's okay. We were negative and we're all on the mend. So and I'm symptom free, so I can go shopping.
Yay.
Yay, I suppose, right?
Yeah. That's a double-edged sword, actually.
Exactly. I'm am I happy about it? I guess.
So to introduce you to my listeners, I was on your podcast, Honest as a Mother, in November. Mm-hmm. And so we had to swap, and I had to have you on here because you are our people. So introduce yourself and tell us who you are and who's in your family.
Yeah. So like Danielle said, my name is Amanda Gurman. I am a mom of 2. I have a son who's 5 and I have a daughter who is 3. I'm married to my husband now 6 years. Yeah. No, 7 years. 7 years. Sorry, Chris. 7 years. And yeah, we've been together for almost 15 years now, but married for 7. I work full time. I am in the chaos of full-time mom, full-time working mom, and I also am the host of the Honest as a Mother podcast, which keeps me insanely busy, as you know, Danielle. But I love it. And yeah, I just really came into this space because I just have such a passion for letting moms know they're not alone, and, allowing moms, giving them a space to feel safe where they can, talk about how much they don't enjoy motherhood sometimes. Or I talk a lot about mental health as well. I'm very passionate about moms' mental health in general, but specifically moms, because I do feel like we struggle a little bit, as moms to say, I'm having a hard time. It's like this weird taboo area where no one wants to talk about that they're having a hard time, and no one wants to talk about that they really don't enjoy being a mom because all of a sudden people think that they're not grateful for their kids or some bullshit. So, I'm trying to create this space where we can say, I don't like my kids today. It is okay. I know you're a good mom. Like, let's just talk it through and normalize these conversations.
Yes, we are all here for it. If you're listening to this episode, absolutely. And that's exactly why, it resonates with the mission of my podcast.
Yes.
And, there needs to be so many more voices in that camp, because there's so many other places that we can go where we don't get that vibe, and it's just comparison, and it's, a lot of pressure, and there's so many expectations. So the question of the day, have you ever felt like you were failing motherhood?
I literally feel like if I'm being real, I feel like I'm failing motherhood once a day. Like, whether it's like I have a story that I can tell you about, like a really dark time where I thought I was failing. But like, if we're being real, like I feel like I'm failing all the time. If I, yell and scream at my kids, and I'm trying to do the gentle parenting route. And when I lose my cool, which happens once a week, maybe more, maybe less, I feel like I'm failing. My son's in school. We got feedback that, he's not doing so well in his letters. Felt like I was failing because I think I'm doing a pretty good job. So, I mean, like, I think if I'm being honest, like, I feel like I'm failing all the time. I know I'm not, but motherhood has a way of being like, you're not doing a good enough job. And I don't know what that is. That's where I'm still trying to figure that out. If it's a society thing, if it's something in me. Whatever it is, I find that we feel like we're failing all the time, time. But
if you want to look for it, there's reasons everywhere.
Totally. And I mean, that would be a totally another podcast, right? Because you could go on forever about where all those things come from.
Totally.
Yeah. But to give you like a specific example, when I had my daughter, when I transitioned from 1 to 2, I felt like the biggest failure, and that made me struggle with my mental health. I was diagnosed with postpartum depression, specifically postpartum rage, and I struggled really bad with anger. So I yelled all the time. I slammed doors. I lost my shit all the time, and that made me feel like the biggest failure, because you get into that, I'm sure because I know you've talked about this in your courses and in your podcast. You get into that cycle of like, I lose my mind and, scream or throw something or slam a door. Then I cry about it because I feel really guilty. And then I promise myself I'm not going to do that. And I apologize to my kids, the whole thing. And then you come back and you do it again. And it's just like you sit in this cycle of, I'm failing at this whole motherhood thing. And I remember thinking that when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was thinking like I would be so good at being her mom because I've already done the newborn stage and I've already done the sleepless nights. And, I decided very quickly that I was not going to breastfeed because it was just like not functionable for me and it wasn't working for me. So I was easy to make these decisions the second time around. And I thought like, I've got this. But then I struggled with realizing that she was not Connor. She was Scarlett. So I was really struggling with like, why can I not do this? Why is she not sleeping? Why does she not eat as much as Connor did? Why does she not like these things? This has worked the first time for me. So then I felt like I was failing constantly. If I wasn't yelling, it was like I couldn't get it right with her. And it really just deteriorated my mental health very, very quickly. So I found, especially the second time around, I went in with like way too high of expectations. And it really just caused me to feel like I was doing everything wrong, which wasn't the case, but it made me feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think usually when you won't go into your first child, your expectations are off because you don't have a real look at like what motherhood is going to be like. You just don't know what you don't know until you're in it. And so you have to make that huge adjustment into, I think they call it like matrescence, where it's like the adolescence of becoming a mom. And then you can get, probably what you're speaking to is like a little bit of false sense of confidence going into the next where you're like, okay, like I rode that wave, I survived, I can do that again. And now I won't have to worry about all the things I did, like the heated wipe warmer and, you know, the amateur hours stuff that I did the first time around. Like, I got this.
100%. Like, you realize, like, yeah, the wipe warmer or like the diaper genie or, you know, the plastic bag on the end of the doorknob, that works just as good as the diaper genie. Like,
Totally.
you realize those things, right? Like, we're not going to buy the button-up sleepers. We're going to do the zippers.
No. Yep.
You know, all of the things I failed at the first time, it made my life hell. I didn't do the second time, but it was like this crazy, I put too much expectation on myself. And I think that no matter how many children you have, I think you could do that to yourself, right? Like you have 3, 4, 5 kids. Each of those children are so different, but for some reason, like I could not wrap my head around the fact that she was her own person with her own needs and wants, and she was very difficult as a baby as opposed to Connor. Connor was easy breezy. So she frustrated the heck out of me, and I couldn't really figure out why. And I think it was because I had this expectation of what it was going to look like. Everything all went to hell, and I had no control over anything.
Yes.
Plus the toddler, right? We don't like I didn't give him enough credit. It was like I'd be up all night with her, finally get her down around 4:00, and then 6 a.m. he'd be looking at me in the bed, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot about you. Now I have to do something with you all day. And I've slept for 2 hours. So it's just like you don't give yourself enough credit, and you don't give the toddler is so underestimated.
Oh yeah.
Or the second child, maybe they're not a toddler.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to be dealing with. And you were working full time. So how did that play into a part?
So I am in Canada, so we have like 12 or 18 months of mat leave. So I took, I know, I'm sorry. I'm like, I don't even want to say this to you.
We need to know that this is a normal thing in other countries. And
it's again, totally another podcast, but 100%, because like the pay is crap. I'll tell you that. Like it's awful, but at least I have the option. And you know what? If you can't afford it, then you don't take the whole time, right? Like if it's not affordable to you, then you obviously don't take it. But having that option is wonderful. So I was off for a full year. I was actually only off for 10 months. My husband was able to take 8 weeks of mine. So he took 2 months off at the beginning to help me with the transition, which was super helpful. But then when he went back to work, that's kind of when everything unraveled. And for obvious reasons, because I had no idea how to be a mom of 2 on my own for, 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah, easy. Again, like now looking back on it, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, why do we think this is going to be such an easy thing to do? Even the first time around, I don't know if you feel the same way, but even the first time around, like, when people be like, so are you ready? And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. It's like, no, I wasn't.
Nobody's ready.
Nobody's ready. Nobody's ready. But I don't know. We think we are. So I think a lot of us, set our expectations up way too high, and then we fall way short of the expectation, and now we're failures in our eyes.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a huge part of the mindset that we have going in, and how much that can screw us up. Because wherever that came from, that again, like you said, it's another podcast of like, what gave me that expectation? Was it my mom? Was it other moms that I knew that were moms before me? Was it because of my childhood? Was it because of like putting other moms on a pedestal? Like, who knows? But we're all struggling with it. And I totally agree, because my first mat leave, I was like, all right, so I think I'm going to take up crochet, and I'm going to like, do these home projects, and it's going to be great.
Oh my God, yes.
What?
And I was going to make my own baby food.
Of course.
Remember that being a thing. I for sure was going to make my own baby food, and we were going to go to like all the mommy and me classes. And then it was like, I cannot leave the house with these two children. Like, what am I even, like, what drugs was I taking when I thought I was like easily, all of us were just going to harmoniously all go to baby and me class and have a great time? No, didn't happen. Like, it just didn't. No. No, the anxiety of having to leave with those two at the beginning too. I was like, no. Because, like, God forbid your baby cries in public, because people don't think baby cries. But when we are in the, did you ever go through that when you're like, I can't take them out because they'll cry? And it's like, babies cry. That's what they do.
Yes. Yes. The whole idea that I can control these humans is a broken premise.
Oh, totally. Totally.
But somehow it's something we've all ascribed to as a society, is that like you're the asshole if you're the one with the crying baby. Like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So much work to do in that area, but that's the reality. Is you're afraid of those interactions. You definitely take takeaways from your worth as a mom, or how you're doing, or how they're doing from those interactions, so you want to avoid it at all costs. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's what I did.
So what changed for you? Like, was there anything that gave you hope? What did those first few years look like?
Yeah. To be honest, I went to therapy for a really long time, and I worked on so much of myself. I also realized, which I still find like incredibly fascinating, that your own childhood is brought into you as a mother. Like, I find that that was the biggest like, what moment, especially with the yelling and me sort of figuring out, which I know you and I talked about on my podcast, and I've heard you talk about this on other podcasts, where, if my son started to get too emotional or have a tantrum or something like that, like, my instant reaction was to scream and yell at him and tell him that he wasn't allowed to do that. And through therapy, figuring out that I also was not allowed to do that as a child. Absolutely not. Even as an adult, like, if I try to express my emotions to my parents, they're like, ugh, like, and now I've been through a lot of therapy. So, I talk a lot about emotions. But I really realized that, like, my children were triggering my like wounded inner child. And to me, that was like the most, like, the craziest thing to wrap your head around. Like, what? Like, I remember the therapist saying, well, there's trauma in your childhood. And I was like, no, there's not. Because I think we think trauma has to be this like big dramatic like abuse or something. But I did have a lot of trauma in my childhood that, is what I'm seeing what a lot of other moms are struggling with too. And it really affected me as a mother. It never affected me at any other state in my life, I don't think anyways. But then I became a mom. So really, like, learning that and working through that has really helped, because now I can have conversations with my children before I lose my mind on them. Do I still lose my mind? Of course I do. I'm a human being. But I can also recognize it, apologize for the behavior, explain to them why I am frustrated, and we can move forward. And then through the years, that's just gotten stronger and stronger. And then also, I've lowered my expectations now. Like, there's certain things, like we were talking about earlier, like, I have been sick the last few days. So my kids sat in front of the TV, and 3 years ago, I wouldn't have allowed that. Like, I would have pushed myself to do some crafts or take them outside or something ridiculous when I'm like dying on the couch. But now I've just lowered those expectations. Like, if we're going to have a full day of screen time, let's just do it. If that's what we need to do to survive, let's just do it. And I think the pandemic helped me with that. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I really feel like 2020 and let's get real, 2021 helped me slow down and realize like my expectations for certain things are just way too high. Mm-hmm. And my kids are just kids and they just want to be with me, whether that looks like, you know, we're doing a Martha Stewart type craft that I hate, or we're laying on the couch watching Home Alone 6 times a day. Like,
yes,
we're still spending time together. And the fact that like, I think I have to be this type of mom, like I can completely let that go now, which has been the biggest relief for me. And I really noticed, like, I think I'm a better mom now because I know the mom that I want to be. And I am not the crunchy mom who makes her own food, and that's not knocking anybody who doesn't. And I think moms that don't want to do screen time, like, I think that's great. If that works for you guys, that's great. But it wasn't working for me. So it was like putting all this pressure on myself to be this quote unquote perfect mom that I had thought up in my head. And really, I was just damaging myself, my kids, my marriage, everything around me. So now that I've figured out that I just want to be Amanda, the mom who does all the things that she does now, that works out way better.
Yes.
And life, I can feel like I can breathe again, you know?
And so who is Amanda? Like,
So
what is your breed of parenting that you have like fully embraced?
So I like to think of myself, I don't really know what like the label of whatever I am.
There are no labels.
Yeah, I'm like I feel like I'm a really good in between. Like I monitor screen time in a sense of like they're not watching porn. like I'll make sure of those things. I don't really like saying like I don't monitor it. But like I don't cap it. You know, we do eat junk food. I do allow them to whatever. I kind of have like a whatever attitude. Like whatever the day's going to throw at us, I think is great. But then I also do make sure that like, you know, they also eat nutritious food, and I do monitor what they're watching, especially my son who likes to be on YouTube now. And I am also super strict with their schedule. Like we go home when the kids have to go to bed. Like if we're having Christmas at our house this year, but if we were going out, we would be coming home to put them to bed at a reasonable time. Like, do I let them stay up sometimes? Yes. So I feel like I'm just like this happy medium of like, you know, I would like to allow my kids to have some freedom, but then I also need my sanity. So like,
yeah,
I need them to stay on a schedule. And some people have knocked me for that over the years, but like, I don't care because I need to keep myself happy. And something that makes me happy is when my kids are in bed and I also have my space. I've been with them for 12, 13, 14 hours sometimes, right? So like, leave me alone. Please go to bed.
And they are much more pleasant to be around when they got a full night of sleep.
Oh yeah. When I was when I first became a mom, Connor was like the champion sleeper, like started sleeping through the night at 3 months old and really honestly and truly never stopped unless he's like sick or something. And people used to make fun of me all the time and they'd be like, oh, Amanda has to like go home because it's nap time, or Amanda has to go home because it's bedtime. And then they'd be like, Connor's so happy. You're so lucky you have such a happy baby. And I was like, that's because he sleeps.
Those things are correlated.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't really know what type of mom I am. I just feel like I'm this really happy medium of like, I'm super easygoing and like whatever goes. And some people might not like that. But then I also have like certain areas where I'm like, okay, like we're not going to eat fruit by the foot for dinner. You can have one after. Yeah. But I buy the things. I buy the bad things. You know, we eat McDonald's, we order pizza, but then also they eat vegetables. So it's like I'm just like this middle ground of like, let's just roll with the punches.
Yeah. And I think I asked you that so that you can kind of paint that picture so that other moms can paint their own and know that like it's okay if you don't fit into a perfect box of like a label that you have seen or heard of, or someone you follow, and like you don't ascribe to all the things that they do, because like there is no right or wrong. It's what does your family need from you and what makes you the best, like what brings out the maximizing of your capacity to roll with the punches and make you feel like you have the space to show up for your kids and whatever that requires of you from the day. And I think where the best fit is like knowing what your 10 to 20% of things are that you have deemed consequential or like needing control over.
Yeah.
And then having the rest be kind of flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And like everybody puts different things in that box of these are my things that are a big deal to me. And then the rest, like I have kind of like a framework for, or like some guardrails, but there's a lot of like in between, or it can look different each day. Mm-hmm. And so, but like that takes a process of getting your feet wet and figuring out where the line is, and then kind of coming back from it, and then just like kind of figuring out, okay, what works for my best friend does not work for me. Mm-hmm. And that's okay.
Exactly. I've also found like through the years, like I found it really hard to pinpoint like what type of mom I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. So when I started figuring out the things I didn't like, that was easier. Like I focused on like, I hate this. I absolutely hate this. So it was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. Yep. And then it was like, okay, so if I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do this. And that just seemed to work a little bit better for me. And even if it is those like weird taboo things, like, breastfeeding or sleep training or feeding McDonald's or whatever it is, screen time. I think that's what you said, like nail on the head, like just do what's best, that works for you and your family. And if people have comments about them, then just let them have the comments, and you can just tell them this is what works best for us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because everything is great in and of itself. Like if you can breastfeed, that's obviously nutritionally beneficial. Or if you can, reduce screen time because of the lost opportunity cost of the things that they could be doing instead, great. But everything needs to be put in the lens of what gives me the most sanity as a parent. Mm-hmm. Because ultimately what your kids need most is a solid parent-child relationship.
They do. And like they don't want a mom who they can obviously see that she's miserable every day.
Exactly.
Right? Like you want your kids to look at you and see a happy, well-rounded mom who, enjoys getting up every single day and being involved in things. And I think if there's things that you're not enjoying in motherhood, like just say them out loud. And I promise you, 90% of us also hate those things. Yes. and maybe not permanently, but like
in a phase at least. Yes.
Totally. Somebody's been there and you are not alone. And I think, I don't know, sometimes some of them you can even communicate with your kids, right? Like mommy just doesn't want to do that right now. And surprisingly, they just go, oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. They don't think like, I don't know. I think some of us can think like, just because I don't want to get on the floor and play with them all day long, that like, if I don't do that, like I'm going to totally screw everything up. Like, no.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Like we have this like checklist, and it's like, if I don't check all the things off, then I'm not a good parent. But ultimately you're a good parent if you have a smile on your face and you wake up and you do the things that keep them alive. Yep. And have something to give by the end of the day. And yeah, bedtime, we all are on fumes, but like when it comes to genuinely enjoying a moment face to face with them, even if it's for 15 minutes, means the world. It means the world, and it means more than the logistics of what made it possible to do that day. And it could be that you take all art supplies out of your house because it stresses you the heck out to have kinetic sand on the floor and scissors at their length. Like even if it's Montessori, like it's fine if it gives you more patience to then sit down and do something that gives you more pleasure, like Legos. Like if that is going to be your thing, great. Do the thing. Yeah. Like for me, I would love to I've always had art supplies at their, like we had a little IKEA table when they were like 1 and they like destroyed it. And we've always had scissors at their level. That I could handle. I mean, I was trained to be a classroom teacher. For me, I embraced that. But then there are things that I absolutely cannot handle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you just try them and then run the experiment. If it was terrible, chalk it up to not for me.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. 100%. Yesterday, Connor has been begging me to watch Harry Potter. And I really wasn't sure about the first Harry Potter because I honestly couldn't remember if it was like, I remember like the later ones are like kind of scary. So we watched Harry Potter yesterday and it was so awesome. Like he loved it and we just like laid in my bed and we watched it and it was like such nice quality time, but also downtime, and he loved it. He told me that and he's like, "Oh, I love doing that." So this afternoon he's like, "Can we watch a movie again and snuggle in your bed?" So it's like it doesn't have to be a big thing, right? Like it doesn't have to be this big. It can be making a craft. It can be sitting and watching a movie. I just made sure like my phone was away and I was connected and I didn't even have to do anything. I just got to lay in my bed, which I'm not going to complain about.
No, win-win.
Hell no. But he loved it. So it was like, that was my mom win. And all I had to do was lay in my bed with him.
Exactly. Exactly. Because he could tell the vibe.
Yeah.
Your vibe was also enjoying that moment.
Yeah.
As opposed to forcing a holiday craft or baking activity where you wanted to not be there and we're worried about every single thing that was happening and becoming more and more irritable. That's not fun.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Anybody. Like, even if you did have to make them, like, just buy them from the store.
Exactly.
It's just worth it at that point.
Yeah, it is.
And, like, one of the statistics that always I want to have this reminder, like, every month where teenagers will be asked, what would you wish you would have had from your parents? Like, what do you wish was different? And most of them reply, I just wish my parents were happier. That's
big.
really all they want.
That's huge. Huge.
Yeah.
And I think, like, we are, our generation anyways, like, we're trying so hard to teach our children to be more in tune with their emotions and have conversations about mental health and everything else. So we really need to also take the time and take care of ourselves, because our kids read that, whether they're 2, 7, 5, they know. Like, I've had my kids ask me several times in the last like few months. I work in the hospital system and COVID's really bad here again. And it's just been really stressful environment. And sometimes I'll come home from work and my son has been like, "Are you sad? Why do you seem so sad?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sad. I'm just stressed." And then I just said, I'm sorry if I'm off. But like, they read you like a book, like they know, right? So they'll know.
And it's scarier to them if you don't say anything about it. If you don't name the elephant in the room, than it is to just be what it is. I am stressed today. And this is why, and it's not your fault.
Yeah. So I can imagine that most people would say they wish their parents were happier, because I could say that for myself. I wish my parents were happier. They were miserable.
Yeah.
And sometimes you look back at your childhood and you're like, damn, like, I got to do better for my kids to make myself happy. Because that's all they want too. They want, as much as you want them to be happy, they want you to be happy.
Yes. Yes. Because then that gives them the freedom to just be carefree and be kids and, become their true selves and figure out who that is in the process. And that's what we want for them. Yeah. But like, so much of that comes down to how we are handling the everyday stress of life. And there's a million things that could make it easier on us systemically. And that's a part of it too. But like, of the things we can change and control today, it's what can I say no to that's going to make it easier to say yes to like the one thing that will matter today. Yeah, absolutely. And I have like, because this is so relevant, I have to bring up the kids mental health at home boxes that Sarah Olsher and I have created. Yes. The special time box, we designed these cards where it's like 40 different activities of things you can do together that take no preparation, and they're just 15 minutes. Activities that you could do in that amount of time. But we categorize them in 4 different categories. They are chill, play, art, and active. And we recommend that parents pick the category that they have the capacity for that day. Gotcha. And then of those 7 cards, offer those, and then your child picks one, and then they still get to ultimately choose what to do together. But if you can't if you don't have it in you today to play Floor is Lava, don't give that just a choice. Yeah. It's okay. Pick from the chill pile and do something side by side that, is all you have today, but you're still making the time. That is all your kid wants from you.
Mm-hmm.
And that is okay for you to say, no, I cannot play rough. I cannot, play Barbies. Like, I do not have that in me today because I have worked a 12-hour shift.
Yeah, exactly.
Take ownership of that. That is okay.
Yeah, and they respond so well to it. Like, they completely understand it, and I don't think that we ever think that through. Like, I don't know. It's crazy how much our kids really just accept from us, and they're just like, oh, okay, let's go watch a show then, or play something sitting down, play cards, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's boundaries. And if we can model that, then they'll feel like they can do that too with their friends of like, no, I don't really want to play that. Or like, no, I don't have the energy to go do whatever today. And like, I need to listen to my body and lay down. Like, that's what, yes, exactly. Do that. But they can't do that if it's not modeled for them.
Exactly.
And we're trying to figure it out and like put the car together as it's already racing down the interstate.
100%. Yes, very much so.
So these are all things that we are like learning in real time.
Yeah. Every day.
So if you haven't mastered it yet, then you're normal.
Yeah. And I find like it just sometimes I can do really great for like a whole month. And then like the next month I'm, burning the candle at both ends because I've said yes to so many things and I have to just kind of reset myself. So it's a constant learning process.
Yeah. You never really arrive or like fully master.
No, never.
Just keep our expectations real. Yeah. I think that's the theme of this episode. It's like real life expectations set you up for a lot more success.
Agreed.
If you blow them out of the water, great.
I love it when that happens. And then I'm like, and then if I really just miss the mark, it's like, whatever. I didn't really expect to anyways.
So what other things do you have on your heart that you would just like love to share with listeners? Like, what is your go-to advice?
I think I just like to bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, which is like happy mom, happy family. I find that there are so many of us as moms who sit alone, I think, in the dark, and especially since the pandemic. The pandemic has hit moms. I mean, it's hit so many people so hard, don't get me wrong, but I find like moms seem to be taken down a lot, and I think it's because we are maybe working from home while our kids, so where I am in Ontario, we just got our kids' stuff all sent back with us just in case they close schools again. And it's like, I cannot do this a third time. Like, so as a mom, it just really feels like everything is constantly put on my shoulders. Like, I have a super supportive husband who I can lean on for everything, but everything still falls on my shoulders. And I have struggled really bad again with my own mental health this year. So I've made it a point to set boundaries and take time for myself. And I have to really work at not feeling guilty about that and talk about what I'm feeling about. So I really am a huge advocate for mom's mental health because I think a lot of us are too afraid to say what we're feeling, whether you're in the postpartum period or whether, you have grown kids and the pandemic has just really made things difficult. Like, being a mom is really friggin' hard, like really hard. And we're also all trying to navigate through this whole world that none of us have a friggin' clue how to be a mom in this world. And also, like, the world is really scary right now and people are really hateful, and it's, our kids are learning things that when we grew up were never even a thought in our minds. And it's just, I just find right now is really hard to be a mom. So whatever point you are in motherhood, like I said, postpartum or not, if you are having a hard time, like, just know that you're not alone, and reach out to somebody. One of the things that I did when I was struggling after I had my daughter was I connected with a few like mommy bloggers, and I was blown away that like they were putting my thoughts from my brain out on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly how I'm feeling. But I was so afraid to say it out loud because I was so afraid people were going to judge me and think I was a bad mom and I wasn't grateful that I have two beautiful, healthy children. Like, no, we are grateful, but we're tired and we're lonely and we're isolated and, whatever, everything else is on your shoulders. Like, I'm sure you can relate, like the mental capacity of motherhood is so heavy. And I found since the pandemic, it's like 100 times worse. And like I said, I have a super supportive spouse, but his brain doesn't function like mine. The kids don't rely on him like they do me. I was working from home and Chris would literally be like in the living room, not working because he works on the weekends. And they would come to me like, can you make me lunch? Like, can you not see that I'm on the phone and I'm typing and you had to like physically walk past your dad to get over here, but you want me to make you lunch? So then I'd have to ask my husband to make them lunch. And then they'd be like, but we don't like his lunch. We like your lunch. And it's like, so mom is always, we're their safe spot where, everything tastes better when we make it. And I don't know. I really felt for moms this year because I feel like or the last 2 years, really, almost. I really felt like we've really got like the shit end of the stick and we've been expected to be all of the things. So I feel like also that's kind of pushed us back. If you've done the work that you've dropped all your expectations, well, the government and whoever else has kind of pushed it back for you to be all of the things. Yeah.
Yes.
Because now most of us work, right? Like most of us are a dual income household. So, you're either working from home and your kids are homeschooled or online schooled or whatever. And you have to be the daycare lady and the babysitter and the chef and the corporate worker and all the things and the freaking referee. Like it's been hard, and I'm feeling for every single mom if they're having a hard time. Like I just really always want to say you're not alone. And, we are all in the same boat together. And whether, someone has the perfect Instagram or not, like we are all struggling in one way, shape, or form. Maybe not every day, but at some point.
Heavy is the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, it's just been, it weighs heavy on my heart because I'm like, I work out of the house. I have a super supportive spouse. I did not lose my job in this pandemic, thank God. My husband didn't lose his job. Like this pandemic really didn't affect us. My son was supposed to go into JK, so I just didn't send him. Nothing changed other than I had to work from home a little bit more than usual. And everything was okay. But I really had a hard time with it all. I still felt like the heaviness from all of it. So I know there's a lot of moms who it's greatly affected them.
Yeah. And I think it's so easy to do that comparative suffering of like, I know so-and-so has it so much worse than me because they're a single mom or they're financially strapped or like this situation or they, they're a long hauler or like just there's so many things that you could say, I have it so much better. So therefore I don't have any reason to have a hard time. And that just doesn't benefit you. That doesn't help that other person. That doesn't solve any problems. Like you have to be able to acknowledge and address the heaviness that you're feeling regardless of the circumstances that brought you there.
Yeah, it's so true. Like your feelings matter and your feelings are valid. And like we were talking about earlier, just make yourself a priority because you do matter and your kids will see that you matter, and teaching your kids that you matter and showing up for them as like a happy, supported mom, I think is like the most important thing ever. We are like the CEO of the family. I heard somebody say this once. The mom is the CEO of the family. If the CEO goes out, everything falls apart, right? And really, without us, like really and truly, your family is just not the same without mom involved. It's just not.
Right. It's like a backbone.
Yeah.
And I heard something earlier this year too that I put into a training where like you don't want to raise entitled kids, but entitlement comes from the perception that their needs are more important than someone else's needs. And we inadvertently reinforce that when we meet our kids' needs and put ours to the side.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you don't want to raise entitled kids, you have to be able to acknowledge your own needs and say both needs are important.
Mm-hmm.
Your needs are important and my needs are important. And we can find a compromise, or we can take turns, meeting each other, so that like there is a balance there that's hard to find. But it's necessary to push for and advocate for that, even if you've never been taught that, it wasn't modeled in your own childhood, and you're trying to figure out how to do that. Like, even if you can't do it for yourself, do it out of wanting to have your kids have a really healthy sense of, I take care of my needs and my future spouse's needs are also important. Or, being able to just do that in their other relationships too. We set the precedent for that too. It's a lot of pressure.
It so is, really, honestly and truly, but it's the truth. Like, I've implemented, like, I can give someone who's listening, like, something really tiny that you could do. Huge. This was huge for me. But now, so my kids are a little bit older, so they're 3 and 5, so they're not like babies. So now
it's not like you can tell a crying baby, like, my needs are important. You can wait 8 hours.
Yes. Leave me alone right now, please. I mean, we'd like to. So this is coming from someone who's in like a bit of a quote unquote easier spot right now. It's not easy.
Wise, yeah.
Yes. So when we get up, everybody goes to the potty, and then I grab them their milks and whatever they want for breakfast. And on the weekends, I generally, like Sunday, I'll make like an actual hot breakfast, but on Saturday mornings, they generally have like cereal or something, right? So I'll put the cereal in the bowl and we all go to the couch. I make a coffee. If somebody asks me for something, unless it's an emergency, if they ask me for something, the answer is no until my coffee is done. Like, they want seconds. Like, you're not going to die if you don't have a second bowl of cereal. Also, my son is 5, so sometimes I'll say, okay, go get yourself a bowl of cereal.
Yeah.
But yeah, Scarlett will say to me, can we play? She'll bring me like her little Peppa Pigs. Can we play Peppa's? Nope. Not until Mommy's done her coffee. When I'm done my coffee, I will play with you. Like, when I'm done my coffee, I will do whatever. Like, because on the second cup of coffee, like, I'll drink here and there. But it's like that first cup of coffee, you guys have what you need. You've gone to the bathroom. You're going to let me sit for 15 minutes and drink this, and that's it.
Yeah.
And
that's a reasonable expectation.
Right. So something as simple as that I've implemented. And now, I find I can do it with other places. Like when I'm eating dinner, like, you guys want to have another drink of water, you can wait until I'm finished, because I've had my years of eating cold food. I'm not doing it anymore. Like,
yes.
Unless you're choking, I ain't getting up for you. Okay. But like, there's just certain things where I'm like, I found like I can implement into the day, like to teach them, like, you have what you need. Now I need to do what I need. Yep. And when I'm done, I will certainly help you. I'm happy to be here and help you when my needs are filled. And right now, I would like to eat my dinner or drink my coffee. Like, I'm not asking for something crazy.
Right. But I think we need those practical examples, because it's so hard to know where that line is of like, when can I start doing that?
Yes.
Because like, it's not like you just wake up one morning and you're like, oh, now, my kids are at this stage and like, it's an official transition. Like, you have to kind of feel that out, and you still feel insecure about it because nobody gave you a permission slip.
Yes.
But like, yes, I absolutely do the same, where if I'm sitting and I'm still eating dinner and they're done, great. As soon as I'm done, I'll be able to watch you or whatever the thing is that you want to move on to, but I'm eating my hot food.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still here. And that's okay.
Yeah, like we did the years of cold food, okay? Or like I did the years where I would eat food at my dinner at 8 o'clock at night because I didn't want to eat cold food or whatever. But now I would like to eat at a reasonable time with my family at the table, and I'm going to eat my food. And when I'm done, we'll do all your crap. We will continue doing the you stuff.
Yes. Yeah, but you kind of have to like pull that back of like, nope, this is a me moment, and it's okay. And that's actually a really, really healthy thing to do. So here's a permission slip if you've been waiting for one.
Yeah. We've signed it.
Yes. Both of us.
Take it and run.
I love that so much because it's so practical. So I would love to just have you plug your platform and your podcast and just like tell them where to find all the things.
Sure. So I'm mostly active on Instagram. My Instagram is at honest mother _ because, honest as a mother was taken by so many people who don't even use the account.
It's not annoying.
It's so annoying. Like, just give me the handle. And my podcast is called Honest as a Mother, and you can find it on all of the platforms, Apple, Spotify, all of the places. I don't even know all the little ones anymore, but
there's so many.
There's so many. I've seen so many people, like, how you can look and see where people are listening on. I'm like, what in the world is that? How did I get there? But I'm there.
Yep, you can find it.
That's right.
I love it. And so the last question that I ask every guest that comes on, so we'll wrap up with this, is how are you the mom that your kids need?
I am the mom that my kids need because I have learned to take care of myself. It's been a really long journey, and I lose track of it all of the time. But I found through figuring out what I need and what I want in motherhood anyways, my self-awareness has come with that. So I start to see, I call it like the postpartum Amanda. Like, I start to see pieces of her that come back. Like, I'm getting a little bit more snappy, or I'm not feeling so great more than other times or whatever. And I can really now see that and be like, okay, red flag. And I need to do something, whether that means leaving the house for a night and my husband does bedtime, or, go out for a walk, whatever it is. But I really think that I am the mom that my kids need, because I love me and I take care of myself first, which is still a mind
revolutionary,
right? Like, it's still like, you take care of you first, then your kids. Like, what? Isn't it like you die for your children and that's it? And you're like, the martyr of the family? No, I'm not actually. I matter first. So I'm going to take care of myself and keep me happy and healthy. And then that actually just ties right into the kids, and they're happy and healthy.
It all overflows.
Totally does. But it's so hard to see that. But when you see it, it is like a breath of fresh air.
When you have that good day,
yeah,
and you can do the thing that is a stretch for you, like a Christmas craft, and fully enjoy it, and see how that was made possible because of the break you got the day before, or like, connect those dots. It is life-giving.
Absolutely.
Yes. I love it. You're such a great example of just what those real life expectations look like and sound like, and your honesty as a mom is so refreshing, because it's so needed. The more that you can live that by example day to day, so openly, and live that out loud, then you're giving permission for so many more moms to do that too. So
Great.
Thank you for sharing your time, and thank you for your platform and all the work that you do over on your podcast. And I just hope that it continues to grow, and moms find you and just get that encouragement that they need.
Thank you. This has been awesome, and right back at you. I love everything that you're doing, and I think little by little we will change the conversation surrounding motherhood, and we are going to empower so many other moms to just take care of themselves. They matter too. And we will have this whole army of moms who are just like, super self-aware and taking care of themselves with super happy kids, and we'll just take over the world.
I love it. Yes. I want nothing less.
Me too. It's the end goal.
Yes. Let's do it together, one day at a time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just had so much fun talking to Amanda. I feel like we could have talked for another 3 hours, just swapping stories and backing each other up. That was so good. I hope that if you stuck to the end, some of those practical examples really made sense to you and felt doable, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about real life, making it realistic, keeping your expectations in check, and it's possible. One step at a time, one day at a time, knowing that there's an ebb and flow, seasons, waves of things, and just, you're normal, and it's okay, and you're doing great. So if this conversation was refreshing, go check out Amanda's podcast, Honest as a Mother. Leave a review for Failing Motherhood and share it on your stories or tell a friend. That is how most people are finding us, and we really, really appreciate that support. So thanks for coming on this journey with me. I believe in you, and I'm cheering you on.